What's up, and welcome back to the Ramble On podcast. It is the home of your 2-7, I think still last place in the A10 Loyola Chicago Ramblers. My name is Zach Coe. I'm joined as always by my 5-star co-host, George Gabra. George, we did it. We won a basketball game. It didn't come in Palm Springs. It didn't come against Northern Illinois. It came against Central Michigan, but finally we have broken the 7-game skid and won a basketball game.
Yep, it was great to see that. Wasn't able to watch the game, unfortunately, because I was flying back from Los Angeles where I was for Thanksgiving, out back to Chicago, and I was in the air while that game was taking place, and I landed some good news. Loyola dominated that second half from the looks of it. Finally got another one in the win column, aside from that opening night win against Cleveland State, and I know we're going to get into that one and all the other games, but it's just nice to finally win one. I think it's an office cut up where Kevin is talking and he's saying all these bad things that happened to him, and then he looks at the camera and it's just nice to win one. And that's exactly how I felt when I saw the final score when I landed on Tuesday night.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into that one. Obviously, our Thanksgiving travel plans and stuff kind of made things difficult recording. Obviously, we knew that we weren't going to get one in between the Northern Iowa and what turned out to be San Jose State game. And then obviously our travel plans worked out so that we weren't able to record before the Central Michigan game, but not that big of a deal here, but you get a win. Let's get some of the house cleaning stuff out of the way quickly here. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Ramble On Pod. You can follow both of us at @co_Zach on Twitter and at Zach Coe on TikTok. You can find George at GG on Twitter, and is it GGG Sports on TikTok?
That's it. Yep.
So make sure to find us there. And then obviously YouTube, entering Kenmore. Check out the video versions and shorts from the Ramble On Pod over there. Make sure to like and subscribe. Just quickly, I wanted to start with some MTE stuff from last week. The players era. Obviously, we did our bonus episode preview. It was awesome in terms of the games, but the atmosphere was not great in these massive Vegas arenas, and the national media was bending over backwards to make this thing be the greatest thing since sliced bread. I have never seen the casual fan in the media so divided in college basketball than it was during the players era. I mean, it truly was shameless what was happening between the national media. Like Jeff Goodman tried to come at me, and I know he's no stranger to coming at people, but when I was like, yeah, Jeff, it's awesome, like he said, get used to it. This is the new age of college basketball. And I simply said, saying get used to it is so disrespectful to all of these mid-major fans that are getting iced out. And he was like, here are all the mid-major games I've gone to this year. Great, Jeff. Congratulations. You're doing your job. That completely disregards what I said in my original tweet. Like, it's just, and even like Kevin Sweeney, who I cite a lot, I think he does a lot of great work for mid-major stuff, but he was like, well, from a pure, like, doing my job standpoint, this is fantastic. It's cheap to get to, it's cheap to stay at, and all these great games are being played in one location. Like, sorry that Rutgers doesn't draw at 11 a.m. Vegas time. Nobody is saying that Rutgers needs to draw at 11 a.m. Vegas time. But you know where it doesn't matter that they're not drawing massive crowds? In high school gyms or ballrooms or these small arenas where the atmosphere can be great with just a couple hundred people of boosters and families that are there to make the atmosphere fun. Like, I understand it's harder for you to get to in the media, but like, I much rather prefer a good atmosphere as opposed to what some of these arenas were in Vegas, which was dead.
Yeah, it wasn't a great atmosphere. A lot of great games in that tournament, but the atmosphere was not like the Maui Invitational or some of these games that happen in a ballroom or things like that. Very short, not many people in the crowd, and I think that's the best way to play these MTEs, and you're playing in huge arenas in Vegas where it's just not a great atmosphere. Again, great games. I love watching those games. A lot of great basketball was played. That Tennessee-Kansas game was awesome. The Alabama-Gonzaga game was a lot of fun to watch. A lot of great games. And just the tournament style, though, you got to have a bracket. College basketball is known for brackets. And the way that they set it up, where if you're playing two really good teams like Iowa State, they played St. John's, and then I'm forgetting who they played the second game, but Creighton, like two good teams, and then you have these other teams that are playing weaker competition, so they're able to get their scoring margin up. I thought it was ridiculous that a team could go 2-0 and not even make the third place game. So I think they got to figure that out, and I think there's a lot of things you can do to fix that tournament and make it better in the future. But again, it was great basketball, just not what I'm used to seeing on Feast Week.
Right, and one of those things that we talked about in that bonus pod, which I guess at this point is no longer timely, but we did have a good discussion about MTEs at the beginning, so if you want to go back and listen to the first 10 or so minutes of that for that, go ahead and check that out. But people saying, oh, well, Maui's going to die because it's expensive to get to and the competition isn't as good. Oh, but we can go to Dubai next year in November for a tournament. Like, it's so ridiculous, the state of college basketball now. Like, we've already done our rant about having guys who played in the G League and professionally overseas now coming in to play college basketball, but now we're going to be flying teams to Dubai to play basketball. Like,
Yeah,
give
crazy.
me a break. Like, just very frustrating. So I don't want to waste too much time with my displeasures with the current state of college basketball. We'll have plenty of time throughout the rest of the season to get there. So let's dive into some of these games here. Start with a Northern Illinois win at Gentile Arena, a 76-59 win. Pathetic. Honestly, like, this was the first game where I really started questioning the direction that the program was going in. Like, it was honestly the most lifeless, pathetic performance that I've seen from a Loyola team in so long. And I tweeted this, and I stand by it. I've watched plenty of bad teams in my days as a sports fan. Now, well, Zach, you're a Boston sports fan. What do you know about bad teams? Shut up. I know plenty about bad teams. It might not be often, but I've seen my fair share of Red Sox, terrible teams. I've never seen a team genuinely look like they couldn't care less to be out there than what this Loyola team did in this Northern Illinois game. It was honestly embarrassing.
Yeah, the spread in that game was 13.5. Loyola was favored at home at Gentile on Friday night, and Northern Illinois wound up covering the reverse spread, I guess, because they won by 17 points here. So they would have covered if they were favored by 13.5. It was just an embarrassing game. It was a pathetic effort, I thought. There was that one clip that you sent me where it looked like they weren't even going after the loose ball. Yeah, I know you sent a tweet out of it. That was pathetic. It just looked like they didn't want to be there. It looked like they wanted to be at a party or at a bar because it's Friday night and the weekend starting instead of playing a basketball game. It was almost 2 weeks ago now, and luckily we have gotten in the win column since then. And it looks like we're playing a little harder, playing a little better, at least in that second half against Central Michigan. But yeah, this was just an overall horrible game. I think I turned it off and 10 minutes left in the second half because they were just getting killed. Didn't want to watch it anymore. It was just embarrassing. And then I saw you tweet out that clip, and it's like, that's the cherry on top of the terrible Sunday that was that game and what has been most of the season to this point.
Yeah, it really is laugh out loud funny. So if you want to go back on my, I can't remember if it was on the Ramble On Twitter account or on my personal Twitter account, but it'll definitely be on both because I definitely retweeted it from the other. Go back and check that out. It was honestly the most pathetic attempt at a defensive rebound I've ever seen in my life. Northern Illinois entered that game 301st in the country in offensive rebounding, averaging a hair over 9 per game, and they racked up 17 in this one. So to me, that's kind of a microcosm of the entire in terms of effort. For the first time, it sounded like Drew was like totally defeated in his post-game interview with Rambler Sportsnet. They didn't post the clip for whatever reason, but it really was. It was kind of sad to hear. Like the game as a whole made me be like, man, maybe Drew's not the guy. And then I heard him in the post-game, and it kind of brought me back to the human element of thing. Like, he might not be the guy, but I'm never gonna be like, oh, I hope he gets fired. I'm never gonna wish for someone to lose their job. So it kind of brought me back to the human element of like, man, like this is just like a coach who he's tried his best, and for whatever reason, his message is just not hitting home with these guys. But we obviously had a turnaround a little bit, maybe not in the first half of San Jose State, because I think their lead there was a little bit lucky when you look in terms of turnovers, but we'll get to that one. But finally in the second half, it looked like whatever message he gave finally was received in that locker room. So we'll just keep on moving on into this Acrisure series in Palm Springs. Yet another offer for the Ramblers in an MTE. I went back to try to find the tweet, but I saw somebody tweeted it that their record in MTEs under Drew Valentine is just horrid. Obviously 0-2 this year, 0-3 last year. Dating back to the Battle for Atlantis that they were in. Obviously you lose to Michigan State, you lose to Auburn.
I think it was 21.
Yeah. So just a terrible record in MTEs. maybe I'll go back and find that tweet for the next one. But yeah, maybe they should just start opting out of these. If they're not going to
Yeah.
get good competition, they're also going to get their doors blown off.
Yeah. Lose-lose scenario there.
Yeah. First off, I just want to say Loyola, Northern Iowa, San Jose State, and Tulsa should all be fucking pissed about the broadcast situation in this tournament. They completely got the rug pulled out from them in this pod or whatever you want to call it by not televising the first 3 games of the day, making them radio only. And magically, the TV broadcast was all ready to go for Ole Miss, Iowa later in the day. So yeah, if I was those schools, I'd be absolutely rip shit that these games weren't on television.
Yeah, I was looking forward to watching the game, and it just wasn't on TV, so that was a bummer. But I guess we did get killed too. We lost by 21 here, so maybe it's a good thing that I didn't get angry at my TV watching for 2 hours. But again, yeah, just I don't know what the situation was. This Acrisure nonsense. I don't want to play in this again because you got however many different Acrisure tournaments, named different names. With I don't know what's going on. I wasn't a fan of this tournament. Obviously, we lost both games too, so that didn't help. But not being able to watch this game, 1, and then 2, getting absolutely just our doors blown off by a team that we used to beat pretty handily. I know we lost some of our games to you and I back in the day, but back in the Valley when we were in our heyday with Krutwig and Williamson and Porter and all those guys, I think we got the better hand than not over you and I more often than not, and they just looked like them. I mean, I didn't see the game, so I guess I can't say looked like, but judging by the score and just what happened, sounded like box score, everything, just they're a much better team than us this year, and that's kind of where we're at this season as a whole.
Yeah, I don't have too much on this one. I listened to the whole thing on the Rambler Sportsnet while I was driving out to Ohio for Thanksgiving. It's just tough to break down a game that you were only listening to on the radio because I don't want to steal all Sudi and CT's takes, but yeah, so I don't have too much in this one. We got our first taste of Zach Royster and Braden Young in meaningful minutes with an ineffective Alex Richardson, and there was no Josh Ola Joseph in these games. Neither made too much of an impact on the stat sheet, but it kind of goes back to something that we were talking about when Caleb Reese was getting burned in, I forget what game it was, that they ended up losing.
I think that was the Colorado State game.
Yes, yeah, right. It's like what we were talking about in that, where it's like, okay, like Caleb Reese, like he might not be the most talented guy out there. He might not go out there and load up the stat sheet, but at the bare minimum, he's out there and he wants to be out there and he's willing to put in the effort to stay out there. And honestly, with the way that they've been playing, that's all you can really ask for. Couple more notes on this one. Shot it well from 3 in the first half. They finally started to look like, quote, the best shooting team in the Drew Valentine era. They went 50% from beyond the arc, but they simply couldn't score from anywhere else, making only 9 total field goals in the first half, 5 of them being threes. They allowed UNI to shoot 57.1% from the field in the first. Miles was a complete ghost in the first half. He didn't record a single stat in 15 minutes played in the first half.
The old Tony Snell line.
Yes, yeah, literally. So yeah, not great. Shooting regression came back big time for the Panthers in the second half. However, the Ramblers were also completely unable to score and never allowing them to get back into it. There was only Zach versus math. 51, I think, or 52, I believe, first half. Yeah, 52. 52 second half points in this one. It was a little bit of a theme in the Acrisure. That's why I said I loved it, because I picked up on the trend of unders in the Acrisure Center. So I made a lot of money just blindly taking unders in this in this tournament. So that was a lot of fun for me, but obviously it wasn't as fun for the Ramblers. To me, like, Sudi, he joked on the broadcast, like, I don't know how any other way to say leaves it short, because they just keep leaving all their shots short. But every team had to play with these rims. It sounded like it was a problem with the rims that was causing these games to all go under. But good teams still find a way to win, still find ways to gut it out and put points on the board. And this team hasn't even figured out how to not beat themselves yet, let alone overcome some funky rims. So pretty disappointing performance there. I don't have anything else on this one. Like I said, it's a little bit hard to analyze a game where you were only able to listen on the radio. So do you have anything else on UNI?
I don't. It was just, I didn't think we were going to win the game, but I thought we would at least be a little more competitive, especially this is a rivalry that dates back pretty recently in the Missouri Valley, and it just got blown out and only scored 51 points. So not a good look there against the Panthers on that one on, I guess it was last Tuesday. So yeah, that's really all I've got to end that.
before I think it was right after the Northern Illinois game, I was like, glass half full, maybe this is like all right, we're all together, like we're gonna find ourselves on a trip, like we're gonna, like you hear turning points being like on the plane, guys figured things out and they squashed whatever beef was going on, and maybe they figure it out and turn things around, and we'll look back at this trip to Palm Springs and that'll be the turning point in the season. And it was not that case. The
Yeah,
case there, they scored, was it 108 total
102.
points? 102 total points
Pathetic.
in 2 games there. San Jose State, obviously a team we saw last year in the NIT, completely different results here. Story of the game in a 63-51 loss. Turnovers. The first half, they come out and they're buzzing. They get a 9-point lead at one point, but I would even say that that's a little bit lucky. 9 turnovers in the first half, but San Jose State wasn't really able to capitalize them. They had 10 points off of those 9 turnovers. Obviously, that completely changed in the second. Ordinarily, you build a 9-point lead against a team like San Jose State, who, when we previewed them, we both agreed that they're not a particularly tough opponent, and yet they still found a way. You want to just try to run them out of the building. You get a 9-point lead in the first half, but once again, they completely beat themselves in the second. It was the Chuck Love show in the first half. 9 points, 2 of 2 from 3. He got fouled on another attempt and went 3 for 3 at the line. A message to whoever the broadcasters were on CBS Sports. Please, and I cannot emphasize this enough, shut the fuck up about him being a hot commodity in the transfer portal. At the time, it was 8 games into the season. 8. And we're talking about guys being hot commodities in the portal. I'm begging you to shut the fuck up about that.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. It kind of caught me off guard. I was watching the game. They're playing well, aside from the turnovers. And Chuck Love, he's feeling himself. He's been doing what he's been doing all year, and that's shooting the ball really well and playing great basketball. And I hear the commentators start talking about the transfer portal in November, which is like, come on, buddy. You got a long way to go until the transfer portal opens up. Anything can happen. I thought that was ridiculous. I don't know who those commentators were, but I'm glad that we're probably not going to have to listen to them again for the rest of the season, because I thought that was pretty embarrassing on their part. In terms of the game as a whole, turnovers were just brutal. In that first half, it seemed like every other time down the floor, we were giving the ball to San Jose State. And even with all the turnovers, we took the lead into the half. We had a bigger lead, and then obviously that got diminished. And in the second half, it was just all San Jose State. It looked like everything. The gas tank was on E. The wind got taken out of the sails, whatever metaphor you want to use. It just looked like we played a good first half aside from turnovers, and then the turnovers kept happening in the second half, and we started to play much worse in every other aspect of the game. And that seems kind of what's been happening for the entire season to this point. And it was just, again, not a fun game to watch against a bad San Jose State team who is a perennial bottom feeder in the Mountain West. And we made them look like a team that could compete in the Mountain West this year. That's how bad we looked in that game last Wednesday.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, too, just quickly, one last point on the Chuck Love thing. I can't lie and be like, okay, man, like this guy is out of here if things continue this way with the way he's been playing. I mean, we have glazed him plenty on this podcast through the first however many episodes of the season. And so that thought has definitely crept into my brain. But if things turn around, which I think we're all still holding on to a glimmer of hope that maybe they will, and they can use this Central Michigan win that we're going to get into as a launching point, and obviously Drew's teams have gotten better as the season goes on. We saw it last year. We've seen it in previous years. So I think we still, maybe it's just hopeful optimism and we're just
Dumb
still
fans.
along for the ride. Yeah, exactly. But it's not like they don't have the money to pay Chuck Love. Like, we know with reportedly how much money they're spending on this team, that they have the money to afford Chuck Love staying here. But it's definitely crept into my brain, but I'm trying to suppress it. And it's also not at all, like, it's just not good broadcasting to be like, to 8 games in the season, this guy's going to be, that every team in the country is going to want this guy in the portal. It's like, all right, man, like, let's give Drew some time. Like, this is why the college basketball system is the way that it is now. Like, you have coaches from other teams reaching out to players mid-season, trying to get them into the portal when the season ends. Like, that just, there needs to be some sort of tampering. I think, who was it? I forget who it was. Someone, like, pretty much threatened like coaches for reaching out to their players. I think it was last year. I forget who it was. But like that's like pretty much what needs to be done. Like, hey, like just so you know, if you're another team from a like we know who you are and we know you're reaching out to our players and cut the shit. Like that type
Yeah.
of shit like needs to happen. But you mentioned it. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong in the second half. They shot 63 RIP% from the field in the
Yep.
first half. But once again, the regression monster came in the second, shooting just 33% from the field. But again, the turnovers was the difference in this one. They let you off the hook big time in the first half on the turnovers, and they did not make that same mistake in the second. 12 second half turnovers, good for 21 Jose State
It's
points.
bad. Not
Yeah,
going to win any games doing that.
No, overall, it's 21 turnovers, 31 Spartan points. Even if you just split those in half, you're talking about a win. Justin Moore got very, very lucky that he had the game he had on Tuesday. Otherwise, the best point guard in the A10 preseason stuff, like I was very prepared to rip him for being terrible. So far this season, he led the way in terms of turnovers. This is a guy who, before he went down last year, I want to say he got as high as top 25 in terms of assist to turnover ratio. Like he was just not a guy that turned the ball over at all. And the story has been completely flipped this season. He just hasn't been that effective. And I understand, coming back from a major knee injury isn't that easy. But if he's not healthy enough, like at this point, it's been 9 games, or at that point 8 games into the season, and you're just ineffective. Like I'm sorry, the injury excuse just it runs out for me. If you're not healthy to go, then don't go, because at that point you're a detriment to the team.
Yeah, no, exactly right. That was a good game on Tuesday, but again, I don't think he has been as good as we would have hoped he would be for us this season. Last year with the injury, he was really playing a really good basketball, and he wasn't turning the ball over. He was a really good point guard, a good quarterback out there on the floor leading the way for the team. And this year, I don't think that he has even come really close to that. I'm hoping that he can turn it around. Maybe he's still getting the cobwebs off after coming off the injury and not playing for almost an entire calendar year. So I'm hoping that's the case here and he will get better. I think he is that type of player who's going to keep working. He's going to keep grinding. So I have confidence in that. But yeah, it has not been the start to the season that we would have hoped for Justin Moore out of the gates.
Yeah, 5 turnovers in this one against San Jose State, which again, like Miles Rubin had 6 turnovers in this one. So I mean, it was really a team issue for the turnovers here, but it's like I said, it's glaring when it comes from that guy who at a certain point, people are talking about him as one of the best passers, one of the best point guards in the country in terms of taking care of the basketball. And I know Sudi and his record keeping is like phenomenal. He's on point with all that stuff, but whatever the updated stats are, they can't be pretty. It's pretty much the number is 10. When you turn the ball over 10 or fewer times, you're going to be in a good shape to win. When you turn it over more than 10 times, you're not going to be in good shape at all. And that has been proven time and time again. So yeah, obviously a disappointing trip out to Palm Springs, 0-2, 0-5 in your last 5 MTE games. So yeah, I don't have too much on this one. Just disappointing. And when you don't take care of the basketball, this is what you can expect.
Yep. When you turn it over 21 times, 31 points allowed, more than half or just under half their points scored for San Jose State was off turnovers. You said it. You're simply not going to win basketball games when you play that sloppy, when you're that careless with the ball and you keep handing it over to the other team. That's what happened in this game. We lost by 12 points. Honestly, we're lucky it was only 12. It should have been at least 20, 25, 30 if San Jose State was any good. They're not very good, but obviously we aren't very good either. We gave them a lot of opportunities. They took advantage on those opportunities with the turnovers, and it was a bad way to cap off a bad trip out west to the desert.
Yeah, the only example I can even think of a team turning it over that much and winning was last night. Auburn against NC State had 20 plus turnovers and they shot 60% from the field.
Yeah,
So
well,
like,
I guess
that's
when
the
you
other,
do
like,
that, then you've got the
yeah,
shooters and athletes that Auburn has. You can get away with it sometimes, but we
yeah, right.
don't have that. So
You're not gonna do that when you're shooting 47% from the field. You're not gonna be
yeah,
able to outshoot your turnover problems. So yeah, so obviously, like I said, disappointing performance out there in Palm Springs, but we have this game against Central Michigan in the win column, snapping the losing streak, which of course got to 7 straight, which, like, honestly, I know for certain, without even having to look it up, that that's the longest losing streak since we've been fans of the team. Or
hmm
actually, maybe not. because of that. I forgot about
Oh,
that
yeah, the
the other last place
22.
A10 year.
Yeah, I think it
I
was
guess there was
22.
there was maybe
Maybe,
a
yeah.
7. Yeah. So obvious. Either way, you never want to have a 7-game losing streak. But we snapped that. It was an 83-2 win over what is their mascot?
They're the
Not the
Chippewas.
Chippewa. Yeah, Chips. I
Yeah.
kept wanting to call them the Mocs for some reason. Is there? There is a Mocs, right?
Yeah,
UT
that's
Chattanooga.
Chattanooga. Yeah, they're the Mocs.
Yeah. I don't know why that keeps getting confused in my head. But over the
Former
Chips.
home of Antonio Brown.
Yes, indeed. Obviously, in this one, we were finally able. So just a peek behind the curtain quickly. I came up with this idea for the Ramble On 3 stars of the game the day after the Cleveland State game. And I pitched it to you, came up with the graphic and stuff. I was like, all right, perfect. We're gonna debut it in the next game, which of course was Mercyhurst. And I was like, okay, like we can't debut it in a loss.
Yeah.
And then the just kept coming
Kept
and
piling,
coming
yeah.
and yeah.
Kept piling
And then
up.
all of a sudden we're 9 games into the season and we've yet to debut the Ramble On 3 stars of the game. But finally the fellas were able to dig deep and unlock that new post-game feature. Justin Moore led the way, 21 points on the back of 10 for 14 from the free throw line to help put this one away. Miles Rubin had by far his best game of the season, 16-7 rebounds, stayed out of foul trouble for the most part, and Kamani Huinsu, just a prototypical Loyola guy.
He's certainly becoming one of my favorite players on the team. I think at this point, he probably is my favorite player on the team, even though I think we mentioned this last year a handful of times. He didn't really light up the scoreboard or the stat sheet with the amount of numbers that he's going to put up. But even in this game, he shot 3 of 5 from the field, very efficient. 11 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds. He's always going to give you a great effort when he's out there. I think he really has become one of the leaders on this team. And when he plays like that and he's doing everything, it's not just scoring, it's not just rebounding, it's not just passing, it's playing great defense, it's doing the little things, it's diving on the floor, things of that nature. So when he's right, I think this team is a lot better, and he has been right here, and he was obviously right in that game on Tuesday night against the Chips. And if he can keep doing that, I think it's going to motivate other guys on this team, and he's a leader out there, like I said, and they're going to look up to him and say, all right, yeah, we can follow in his footsteps and play that way. And I think if they do that, hopefully, again, I think we got more hope than a lot of other people, but hopefully this thing can get turned around and we can start winning some games on a consistent basis here.
Yeah, and he's a guy that we talked about it a couple weeks ago when you're talking about the guys that are program guys, Loyola guys, the Lucas Williamsons, the Sheldon Edwards, like they brought back the hard hat this year from last year. And like this was your prototypical hard hat performance. Like you said, he's not going to light it up in terms of the box score by any stretch, but 11 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. Like he does a lot of things well, and he does a lot of the little things really well, which is something that this team doesn't do well at all. We talked so much about winning within the margins, and it's something that I said that I hear Joe Mazzulla talk about all the time. Like you have to win within the margins if you're going to have a chance to win. And that's what Kamani Huinsu does so well. And obviously it's been tough for him. Drew said it in his post game, like 3 stress fractures in a leg in 3 consecutive years. And he's never going to make excuses for guys. But when you're out there playing on essentially one leg, it's tough for you to be that kind of hard hat guy. And obviously he was feeling good in this one. So hopefully the health can be on his side finally for once in his career. But yeah, this is like, he's only been here for a year, but you mentioned it, him being a guy that other guys can look up to and be like, all right, this is how you play Loyola basketball. Like that is what we're looking for out of guys like that.
Yep, totally agree. And again, I don't have too much else on this game just because, like I said, I was in the air, unfortunately. But again, it was just really great to land to some good news and finally see a win in the win column and get to number 2 on the season, 2-7 now. And hopefully that can build some momentum because we've got, I don't want to say a couple of easy games because no game has been easy with how bad we've looked and how terrible we've played. But we're playing Princeton Saturday, and then we got Chicago State, who again always seems to give us fits even when we're good. We haven't been good so far this year, but I think those are definitely 2 winnable games that we have coming up. Get on a little 3-game win streak before headed out west to play San Francisco and Santa Clara before the A10 season starts. And you never know what can happen. Again, we're I think, the ultimate optimist when it comes to Loyola. We love the program. We both went to school there. Go Ramblers. Like, we live and die with these games. We love it. And we want them to be good. And it just sucks when they're not, and they haven't been good this year. But I think that you have a real chance to gain some momentum here. And I think that getting this win against Central Michigan on Tuesday night was the first step into gaining some momentum and hopefully turning this thing around.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. And it was kind of a tale of two halves in this one, just to like quickly wrap things up on this, because I know you got something you got to get to here tonight. But Drew said he actually thought they played well in the first half. In terms of energy, I don't necessarily know that I agree with that, but I guess he knows more than me about the sport of basketball, so I'll defer to him on that one. But I tweeted this, and it's so frustrating with the threes when it just completely bogs down your offense. Like, they shot 13 threes, 13 of their 27 shots in the first half were threes, and they made 3 of them. Good for 23%. Meanwhile, Central Michigan was just shooting the lights out. 56%, 5 for 9 from beyond the arc. Capped off by, I don't know if you caught this, the most ridiculous buzzer beater at the end of the half that I've ever seen. Guys dribbling it like right around half court. I'm pretty sure he has his back turned to the basket, and the clock's winding down, and he just turns around and chucks it up, and fucking sure as shit swishes it right in. It's one of those ones where, like, I tweeted, I was just like, well, I guess it's just one of those seasons, like one of those things that you can't really do anything about. Like, if they're gonna make that shot, then, like, I guess, man. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, so the threes completely, it bothers me. Like, obviously it's a lot of fun when it's just a complete, like, 3-point show, nobody can miss. But obviously that was not the case in this one. But really what highlights me, it was really a team performance in the second half. I mean, obviously you had Justin Moore, who had the big second half, 16 points, shot all 14 of his free throws in the second half. Miles Rubin had a big second half. He only missed 2 shots in the entire game, 10 points, 5 of 6 from the field. We already highlighted Kamani. Josh Ola Joseph was back and healthy, and he made a big impact. Something that I thought was interesting from Drew in that post-game sit-down was simply that he said that Josh was using his athleticism and not just being a perimeter ISO player guy. Like, this is a guy that, when we highlighted him in our preseason episode, said that he was going to be a guy that was going to have an Ahir Ugwak-like impact. He can shoot definitely better than Ahir, but when you hear Ahir Ugwak, you don't think of a guy that was just living at the perimeter.
Yeah.
You think of a guy who was just out. Yeah.
The athletic.
Good.
A pure athletic specimen out there, could just get to the rim and dominate you with his ability to just be a better athlete than you.
Exactly, and that's what we were hoping for, and I think he was more of that in this one than he had been yet in this season. And Drew mentioned Phil Alston as a comp for him, and being like, you know what, like, go out there and be a goon, like, go out there and put your hard hat on and go to work. And that's something that he was able to do a lot better in the second half of this one. Jeez, if I can talk, that would be great. Central Michigan, he came into this game top 50 in offensive rebounding in the KenPom, which was another stat that Drew had in that sit down, and they were able to limit them really well on the offensive glass, which obviously is something that we highlighted as being pathetic in that Northern Illinois game. So 3 games in a row now, you win the rebounding margin. This one you win by 7. You held them to 5 offensive rebounds, just 9 second chance points. You rack up 10 offensive rebounds, good for 17 second chance points. It's something that you would love to see as a turning point for this one. Even Cade Dotson was great in the first half of this one. He didn't have any points in the first half, but kind of kept you in it for a large portion of this first half. 3 of 6 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, makes both of his shots at the line, 10 points in just 11 minutes. Like, this is the kind of impact that we need these guys to have. No Dominic Harris. He didn't play in any of the games, I want to say, in Palm Springs, so he's down with injury. Not sure what that is, but
maybe that's a good thing with how he's done this year. My newcomer of the year has not been great, so
no. That's what I was gonna say. I said, obviously, don't want to wish injury or ill will on anyone.
Yeah, no, hope he. But
even when he was healthy, we were seeing him not play all that much.
Yeah, he missed the game he played against UNI, but he only played 3 minutes, and then it was he hasn't played the last 2, so.
Yeah, so last 2, and even, like you said, he only played 3 minutes against UNI. I can't remember him out there too much against NIU, so I think when we talk about guys who maybe just came and got their bag and gave up, I think he's maybe the poster boy
Yeah, well,
for
he's at his
actually. And
4th school in 5 years too, which you
yeah.
never love to see, so
Yeah, it's kind of like what I texted you with AJ Storr on
yeah.
Ole Miss being like, well, when you have a guy that's bounced around as much as he has, and I think
Yeah.
when he first committed to transfer to Ole Miss, people were like, yeah, like he's been doing this since high school too. Like he went
Yeah.
to 3 different high schools, 3 different
Just
high schools,
insane.
5 different
Then
colleges.
yeah, they ask him the question if about effort, and he starts answering it, and then Chris Beard cuts him off, and he's like, "Yeah, we'll play other players if they're not giving effort." Just totally calling him out, which good because that guy
Yeah,
is just a complete bum. If he's at 4 different schools and he's not, I don't know, whole different
yeah,
thing there. But you gotta, if you're going to different schools and you're transferring, you gotta put some effort in. So I don't know.
right.
Yeah,
And like I
that's
know
one
that
thing
like
with the guys going back and forth. It's like, well, this guy can't keep a commitment for too long. I don't know how good he's going to be, how much he's bought in. And clearly, a lot of times, I think it's more often than not that they are fully bought in and they're just not going to pan out like we hope they would.
yeah, and that's a guy, AJ Storr, all the talent in the world, but he doesn't have the right head on his shoulders. And like, and that's like, I'm glad that for the most part, Drew's avoided guys like that in the transfer portal. Obviously, you're not going to hit a home run like you did with, like, say, Sheldon Edwards every time, or Justin Moore. Like, I think Justin Moore leading up to the injury last year was a home run in the portal. But I think avoiding guys like AJ Storr, and obviously I don't want to bash Dom Harris too much because we don't know that for sure he's the guy, even
Yeah.
though it certainly appears that way. But yeah, I hope moving forward we can avoid those kind of guys where it's like, all right, this guy's on his 4th school in as many years
Hmm.
moving forward, because obviously those guys are not proving to be very effective. One last thing on this Central Michigan game before we get into Princeton is simply what I said about the working the ball inside. You finally have success inside, and look what happens. You win the basketball game. In the second half, they shot only 38% from beyond the arc, but they only took 8 threes. So it doesn't matter. You take 27 shots and 19 of them are from inside the arc and you're making 17 of them. It doesn't matter that the threes aren't falling. Like
Hmm.
it just, the offense flows so much better when you don't get zeroed in on the threes and just start chucking them up no matter what, which is like really fantastic to see.
Yeah, you don't want to. If one thing isn't working, you shouldn't continue to do it. If you're not shooting the three well, then go for the easier shots, the higher percentage shots. Even though they're worth one less point, it's a lot better than getting 0 points when you keep missing them. So totally agree with you there. If one thing isn't working, you got to change it up. You got to be flexible. You got to move on the fly here. And I think that was good adjustments there by kind of abandoning the three and taking more high percentage shots, and it worked out, and we won the game.
Yeah, and then winning the game in the margins. 8 turnovers total for the Ramblers in this one. You win the turnover battle, forcing 10. You win the rebounding battle by 7. You take care of the basketball. You take high percentage shots, and look at that. You win a
They won.
basketball game. Yeah,
Wouldn't you know it?
it's
They
not
won.
rocket science.
It
and like,
isn't. It
and that's
really
where,
isn't.
that's where I think some of the blame does fall on Drew. And like, all right, we're just gonna chuck threes, and if they're not falling, they're not falling. We're just gonna stick to it. Like at a certain point, it's not shooting variation; it's coaching.
Hmm.
And finally, we see them move away from that. So in the win column, finally, hopefully, this is a game to build some momentum. Obviously, at this point, we're just trying to play spoiler, and I know that a lot of other A10 fans are pissed with the net coming out. I saw that 354, which is obviously where they opened in the net when it came out this week, is the worst in A10
I saw
history.
that. Yeah.
So we're making history. Don't ask if it's good or bad, but obviously we're just trying to play spoiler at this point, and like I don't care if that means no multi-bid A10. Yeah, I'm a Loyola fan. I'm not an A10 fan. Like
Hmm.
unfortunately for you guys, I'm hoping that Dayton, VCU, St. Louis, I'm hoping we can knock you guys off and kind of fuck up your at-large chances. But at this point, just hoping that they can figure some things out before they get to Pittsburgh and then maybe shock the world. But not holding my breath on that at this point. I'm just looking for a respectable season where I don't want to gouge my eyes out watching the basketball team.
Yep, that's where I'm at too. Just keep winning games, keep playing better. I guess we only won one game here in the last month, so I guess if we win, we can say keep winning games, but if we beat Princeton Saturday. But yeah, just play better. I mean, you got to kind of flush what happened in the beginning of the season. Yeah, it wasn't a great start. In fact, it was horrible. It was about as bad of a start as you could have possibly had. But if there is anything in that room where they can figure it out and play better, which I know I've said it a handful of times here tonight, but I believe they can, and they have that in them to play a lot better than they have been playing, and they showed that in the second half against Central Michigan. And again, momentum is a huge thing in sports, especially in college basketball. You can string a few wins together in a row. These are college kids. They're going to be feeling good about themselves. They're going to be playing with some more swag. They're going to be playing with the smile on their face, and they're not going to be playing with as much pressure and have some of that weight off their shoulders. So again, this was a very nice win to get, and hopefully we can make it two in a row on Saturday against the Tigers of Princeton out of the Ivy League.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it. Momentum is a real thing, and these are college kids, so hopefully they can kind of see, like, those guys that were lagging behind and not giving 100%, like, okay, this is what happens when you play Loyola basketball. Like, I think this was as close to prototypical Loyola basketball as we've seen throughout this season. So hopefully the coaching staff can say, like, hey, see what happens? Look at this. Like, we can win when we play this system. Like, this is a system that we've seen work over the better part of the last decade. Like, I don't think the system has changed all that much from Porter to Drew, and I think that was the whole point in hiring Drew after Porter left, is to have that continuation. Obviously, the game plan changes a little bit when you don't have a guy like Cam Crutwig down low. Like, I mean, he's a generational player. Like, he probably top 3 in terms of greatest Loyola basketball players of all time.
Oh, yeah,
in terms
for
of
sure.
the impact that he had. So, like, obviously you had that kind of stylistically change, but there's no reason that Miles can't be a Cam type player. And I mean, when you have first halves like he had against Northern Iowa, he's a complete ghost. Like, you can't just have your best player be, like you said, putting up Tony Snell numbers in and expect to win. So finally you see him come alive. You finally see Justin Moore come alive, making free throws. Like, I know that, like, just about half of his points came at the charity stripe, but those are important. How many times have we bitched about teams missing free throws? Like, this is how you win games. So, like, hopefully this is now the formula to winning games, and they can take that, carry it over, and make somewhat of a respectable season at this point. I don't think they're going to run the table, but if they can finish under like 12 losses this year, I think that would be a great success.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm hoping it does. And maybe Tuesday night was just the spark they need to get on a little bit of a roll here.
Yeah, so looking to carry that momentum into the second leg of the home and home versus Princeton. Obviously a much worse team than the Princeton squad that we saw last year in New Jersey. Is that where Princeton is?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, in New Jersey. The Tigers, obviously without Xavier Lee, who has been pretty comfortably the biggest transfer portal bust, I think, heading over to Florida. And then Caden the Coward Pierce, who is opting out of his last year at Princeton, but staying to get his fancy Ivy League degree before going elsewhere for his final season. But what do you got on the Tigers?
So this team is a team we beat in Jersey last year. Very gutty win for us. It was a close game till the final minutes, but it was a big road win to keep us undefeated there. The Tigers are 3-8 this season. One of those wins is over John Jay. I don't know if that's the former Cardinal Cub baseball player, if that's his university that he founded, but they did beat John Jay, so I'm not really counting that. So really, they're 2-8 this season. They're 205th in the net. We're currently at 348, so they are a good amount ahead of us in the net. But again, they're coming out to Chicago this weekend.
So's everybody.
Yeah, pretty much everybody else. So that's not saying too much. They're 203rd in the Ken Palm, 300 for offensive rating, 176th in terms of defensive rating. And you mentioned it last year, but this is a team that lost a lot from a year ago, including their best player from last season in Xavier Lee, who's now in the swamp at Florida in Gainesville. They also lost Caden Pierce and Blake Peters. And who was I was confused between these two guys. Which was the guy who
Pierce is the one that's
Pierce? Okay,
staying.
I had
Yeah,
Peters
he's
written
getting the
down for
degree.
some reason,
Yeah.
but yeah, Caden Pierce just I don't know. He's staying at Princeton, not playing. And so we won't be seeing him because he'll be playing next year for a different school after he graduates. This year, their stars are Dalen Davis. He's missed the last 5 games, though, with a sprained ankle, so I'm not sure if he's going to be able to go on Saturday. We don't know too much yet because the game is still 2 days out, so we will see if he's able to give it a go, but he is leading the team in terms of points per game with 16.5. Jackson Hickey, or Heike, I'm not sure how to say his last name. We'll go with Hickey, is averaging 13.4 points per game. He's also leading the team in rebounds per game with 4.5. Jack Stanton, Giancarlo Stanton's brother. I don't think he actually is, but you just have to assume.
Yeah, we can only assume.
Stanton's brother, he is averaging 11.2 points per game. He's having a nice year for the Tigers. But this is a Princeton team that has a very slow pace of play. They're 241st in terms of possessions. Bad offense, averaging just 66.7 points per game. That's 313th in the country. And they don't shoot it great either. They can play defense. They're pretty good on the defensive side of the ball. That is their strong suit. So we're going to have to run up and down the floor here, I think, to win this game. I think for us to kind of take control, I know it's not really our style of play either, but I think if we can play at a fast tempo, kind of get Princeton out of their element, something they're not used to doing, I think that'll be the key here to win this game and get to 2 wins in a row and get to a third win on the year Saturday is running up and down the floor, tiring them out, and a pace of play that a style of basketball that Princeton isn't used to, get them uncomfortable on the road. And I think if we do that, we're going to win the game.
Yeah, and obviously this was a team that was built to kind of run fast, and obviously they did not have any type of success with that early in the season, so we saw them kind of revert back to a slower pace on Tuesday, so maybe now that they have their feet under them, they know they can win, maybe they can start to fly around a little bit more, and I know that kind of working at a fast pace is more conducive to shooting transition threes, but maybe if you can work the ball a little bit more inside while also still going at that fast pace, they can find success. To me, you mentioned it, that they were not a great offensive team. You said that they were 300th in the KenPom in terms of offensive rating. Maybe this is a game where you can kind of get your defensive system right a little bit. Obviously, you get a win against Central Michigan, but I still think there was work to be done on the defensive end. They shot 52% from the field, so obviously not ideal. You're not going to win a ton of basketball games where your opponent is shooting 52% from the field. I said it in the first half of that one. They shot 56% from three, so obviously work to be done on that end. So maybe you get a weaker offensive team. Thank God we don't have to watch Xavier Lee anymore because he just bothers me. So even on Florida, he still just bothers me so much.
I'm glad he's not having a good year with Florida.
Oh, yeah.
That puts a smile on my face.
Especially he did the whole, like, oh, I'm going to go to Duke. And then he did the whole, oh, who wants me? It turns out nobody wants you.
Yeah,
I saw somebody say this, like, somebody said, like, oh, it turns out the Ivy League to SEC jump is a pretty big jump to make. And someone's like, yeah, like, coming from a former NBA scout, you should 100% always stay where you are and let the league figure you out, because the mystery intrigues them way more than taking a massive jump from the Ivy League to the SEC and getting exposed as the fraud that you are. So yeah, hopefully this is a turning point for this team. And again, famous last words, I said it before and I tweeted it after they went 0-2 in Palm Springs. I will never again say that hopefully this is a turning point for this team, because I no longer believe that they're going to have a turning point, but here we are again. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Can't get fooled again. In the words of George Bush. So hopefully this can be used as a turning point for this team. They can kind of figure out their identity, how they want to play, and use that win as a springboard into bigger and better things. Like you said, it hopefully 2 weaker opponents, and I know we said it going into that Northern Illinois game, like, okay, like you've played North Texas, you've played Colorado State, you've played Wichita, like you've got a couple easier opponents, and obviously it's tough to say easier opponents when at the time you were sitting at 1-6 or 1-5, whatever it was. But again, like you said, you have 2 weaker opponents coming up against Princeton and Chicago State before you head out west, and you should be getting Xavier Amos back at some point in the next week, hopefully before that California stretch. So hopefully they can get those guys back and, like you said, springboard to bigger and better things and kind of get the season turned around and back on track.
Yep, I think we're going to win Saturday. Princeton's not very good. I think these guys are going to be feeling a little juiced up, little momentum going their way. They're going to be feeling good about themselves after that great second half against Central Michigan. It's at Gentile Saturday. I think they're going to be good to go. I think they're going to win this game. I know I've predicted that they were going to win a lot of games earlier that they haven't won, and then I predicted they were going to lose a bunch of games that they have lost, but I really do think they're going to win this game. I don't know what that means for the rest of the season in terms of what their record will be, because they are going to play a lot better teams than this Princeton team Saturday, but again, I think just with the momentum we've got, they're playing better. It's a bad Princeton team. I do think we're going to go out there Saturday, impress again, and get another W in the win column here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have them winning this one. Obviously, we'll be back at it before the Chicago State game. I think it's a 8-day layoff, Saturday to the following Sunday for finals, I think it is. Or at least I assume that's what it is. Quick final thought here. Credit to all the alumni and everybody who packed Gentile on the opposite side. Obviously, it was a weak showing from the students, and it's hard to blame them. I wouldn't. Well, that's not true. I would show up for a 1-17 because I'm a sicko and I like going to the games and I like drinking at the games and having a good time.
Yeah.
But I can't fault the students for not going out to see a 1-7 team at that point. But I thought the atmosphere was still really great with a bunch of alumni, or whoever was really at the game. I assume it was a lot of alumni, but fans, whoever they were, like, credit to them for getting out there, continuing to stay invested in the program. And when some of the other students haven't, and it's something that I bitched about a couple weeks ago, like, you need to win to get these students. At a certain point, these 17, 18-year-olds don't give a shit about a Final Four appearance almost a decade ago. So
Yeah, that's true.
credit to everyone who cares about the program like we do. And they were fired up to get a win. I was fired up to get a win. So hopefully that trend can continue on Saturday. Any other closing notes, George?
Nope. Yeah, like we said, it was just nice to get, like Kevin Malone said, it's nice to finally win one and have one go your way. And again, I do really think that that's going to build some momentum here against some not so great teams in Princeton Saturday and then the following Sunday against Chicago State. But one game at a time, take care of business on Saturday at home in front of your home fans and get that winning streak going, get to 2 wins and make it 3. And then you go out to California and you see what happens before A-10 play starts. And momentum, again, like I said a few minutes ago, it's a big thing in sports and especially in college sports and college basketball. So go out, play hard Saturday. And I think we're going to come away with that one with a win if we do, and we kind of go from there.
Yep, couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said at the open, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Ramble On Pod, at TikTok at Ramble On Pod with an _, and on Instagram at Ramble On Pod _. You can find me on Twitter at @co_Zach and George at GG Gabra. Make sure to subscribe to the pod wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching on the Entering Kenmore YouTube channel, make sure to like and subscribe over there. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.